States or who have deceased, that those people should not be on our Medicaid rolls. And finally, to encourage those who are able-bodied with no dependents to seek employment, to seek work, or to volunteer meaningfully in their community. These reforms are not about taking something away. They are about strengthening this program. They are about ensuring that those who truly need it are the ones who are receiving Medicaid benefits. And most importantly, ensuring that this program will be here, not just today, but for generations to come. I look forward to working with my colleagues who are here today. I'm very proud to stand with them to ensure that we get this bill passed. It is the right thing for America. And with that, I'm proud to introduce my colleague, Representative Andy Bond.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with President Donald Trump to support this one big, beautiful bill, which I am here to say is jet fuel for the American economy. Moody's recent downgrade of our credit rating is yet another reminder of why we need to get our fiscal house in order. And this bill does just that. We will never balance the federal budget. We will never overcome our debt and deficit challenges if we do not grow this economy. And in fact, we have to grow our economy so fast that what we owe starts to shrink relative to the overall size of our economy. This one big, beautiful bill will grow our economy faster than we've ever seen before. Do not believe the CBO, who has been wrong over and over and over again, so wrong when they first scored deficits under the first Trump tax cuts. They underestimated the revenue, the positive revenue benefits of that bill by over $1 trillion. But here's what this bill will do. Here's what the one big beautiful bill will do. It will provide 100% expensing immediately for new manufacturing factories here in the United States. It will provide for an expansion of the small business tax deduction, 23% for all of those small businesses, those Main Street businesses. It will provide for bonus depreciation, which again, jet fuel for the American economy, and will pull forward all kinds of capital investment and make sure that the capital expenditures are affordable for the entrepreneurs and job creators in this country. Don't believe the misinformation that this is a deficit producer. This bill will create the economic growth that is required for fiscal responsibility. And with that, I'm proud to introduce my good friend from across the Ohio River, Kentuckiana, Aaron Houchin from Indiana.
Thank you. I'm so proud to be here to speak about the great things that are in President Trump's one big, beautiful bill. For months, we've heard the same tired scare tactics from Democrats who are more interested in defending bureaucracy than telling the truth. We're here today to set the record straight. Our one big, beautiful bill does not cut Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security benefits. It protects it for the Americans who need it most, and by targeting waste, fraud, and abuse. What Republicans are doing with this one big, beautiful bill is restoring common sense and fiscal responsibility. We are strengthening and protecting Medicaid for the most vulnerable: pregnant women, children, people with disabilities, low-income seniors, and struggling families. These Americans will continue to get the care that they need and deserve. Let me repeat that. These Americans will continue to receive the care and services that they deserve. What we're not doing is going to keep writing blank checks for waste, fraud, and woke nonsense. We're ending taxpayer-funded health care for the 1.4 million illegal immigrants currently receiving it. We're stopping payments for dead people and duplicate enrollees currently receiving benefits in 2 or more states. And yes, we're cutting off federal reimbursements for transgender surgeries on minors. Even the New York Times, the darling of the left, acknowledged last week that Democrats are exaggerating the impact of our bill. When a source that rarely agrees with us admits the left is stretching the truth, you know the fear-mongering has gone too far. It's time for the left to stop misleading the American people. This budget is about protecting what works and fixing what's broken for hard-working Americans to put them first. We were elected to clean up the mess that Joe Biden left behind, and with President Trump's leadership and our one big, beautiful bill, we are doing exactly that. And with that, I'm going to yield to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Crenshaw.
Thank you for doing this. Proud to be part of Main Street, proud to be supporting President Trump's big, beautiful bill. When he talked to us this morning, his message was really simple. Let's get this done. This is good for America. This is good for the American people. I think it's worth noting what the Democrat message is. The Democrat message is very simple. We want to raise your taxes in December. That's not a really good message to bring back to the American people. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. We want to keep your taxes low. And on top of that, we are putting in provisions that are monumental for our country, for our debt, and for our kids. One of my favorite provisions, what I put in our bill, protects kids from radical transgender ideology, removes any federal funding for transgender surgeries or treatments on children. That's just one of many good things. It fixes the border. It enhances our military capabilities. The list goes on and on. I want to talk about, though, some of the lies that we heard. On our 26-hour markup on energy and commerce, Democrats actually flew in all sorts of people from around the country, kids with disabilities, adults with disabilities, claiming these are the people who we were taking Medicaid away from. It was all a lie. It was deeply unethical for them to bring those people in, scare them into thinking their Medicaid was going to be taken away. So here's the truth. They claim we're kicking poor people off Medicaid. It's false. In actuality, 4.8 million able-bodied adults would rather just not work or volunteer, but they'd still be on if they could work, if they wanted to work. 1.6 million are enrolled in 2 states. 1.2 million aren't even eligible to begin with. 1.4 million are illegal immigrants. So this is not a purge, it's not cuts, it's accountability to fix the system for what it's intended to be for, which is kids and the poor. They say we're cutting substance abuse treatment. That's wrong. The bill explicitly exempts those with substance abuse disorders. They say we're slashing Medicaid entirely, yet here's the reality. Spending still grows 6.5% above 2021 projections. That's even after the $800 billion in savings. So that's the opposite of a cut, it's growth. And they also deny that illegal immigrants are even on Medicaid, but for California, for instance, it diverts $5.2 billion to do just that. This bill closes that loophole. And finally, they say there's going to be budget chaos within the states. Well, the reality is what we're actually doing is freezing runaway provider taxes and payments. Hospitals will still get what they need. So in summary, this bill is nothing what the Democrats claim it is. Nothing. None of what I just described can even be loosely interpreted as the word cuts. And yet that is exactly what they keep saying. And it's false, and the American people should know that. I'll leave it there, and I would like to introduce my friend from New York, Representative Nicole Maliotakis.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. As a member of the House Ways and Means Committee, very happy that we were able to pass this out of our committee last week. And I wanted to give you just an overview of some of the important tax provisions, because what you'll hear from the Democrats, they claim that these are tax cuts for the ultra wealthy, for the billionaires, and that's simply not true. We're focused on the middle class, on working Americans, middle class families, and senior citizens. So not only are we tripling the SALT deduction for families with incomes of less than $400,000, we're increasing the child tax credit. We are increasing the standard deduction. And my legislation that would give a deduction of $4,000 for senior citizens who are struggling to get by on their Social Security checks. $4,000 for single, up to $75,000 in income, and you double that to $8,000 deduction for seniors who are married, up to $150,000 combined income. That is not billionaires, that is not the ultra wealthy. Those are the working and middle class people that we represent, and that is who we're fighting for in this piece of legislation. And so the Democrats want to have a tax cut on everybody across the board. We're making sure that not only do we keep those income brackets where they are right now, but we are giving extra support for, again, working families, middle class families, and our senior citizens who are struggling to get by on their Social Security checks. And with that, I will introduce my colleague from Ways and Means. Hopefully I didn't say everything he was going to say. Blake Moore from Utah.
Blake Moore from Utah. Thanks, Nicole. No, in fact, there's a lot of aspects to the tax portion of this bill, and I actually wanted to talk about some of the major economic growth factors. The child tax credit, standard deduction, and things that Nicole mentioned are exceptional, and they actually constitute a majority of the bill, but it's important to understand three things. What took place in 2017, what's in this current bill, and what it's going to do going forward. 2017, we went through a major tax reform moment in our country, and we learned one major thing. When you keep taxes, or in our case, we needed to lower taxes to make them competitive for the global business community, you will see economic growth. And with that economic growth, ironically, you actually see revenue growth. Instead of companies being able to use a lower tax rate over in, say, Ireland, they were saying, hey, it's actually comparable now to do that in the US. I'm going to repatriate our revenue back here, and we get more revenue. That cannot be understated, the importance of the concept of keeping taxes competitive so we continue with strong revenue growth. And that's what took place in 2017. All of those provisions expire, for the most part, at the end of this year. And if we don't get this bill done, there will be a significant tax increase on every American and every business across the country. And so what we're doing here is taking a look at 2017 and saying what was so productive about that created a lot of strong economic growth, and we're going to make that permanent. That's getting missed in all of the conversations. We are making permanent what was 2017's reform. And we're saying we want to continue that strong economic growth so we can continue to be the GDP leader of the free world. Okay? That's what's in this bill. That's the majority of what we're doing, is we're looking at 2017, and now we're moving forward with permanency. That cannot be understated. But the aspects that I'm really excited about are things that we're going to be able to do in addition to that. Making sure that you can expense your R&D. We want American invested R&D, research and development. Things when you go buy a piece of equipment for your company, instead of writing that off over a several year period or only getting 80, 60, 20, 40% of it, you're going to get 100% expensing, and the interest portion of your EBITDA is now going to be back to where it should be, and we're going to see an enormous amount of economic growth come from that. But every single person, when talking about this bill, should be able to highlight this one provision. It's called 199A. Small businesses typically set themselves up as an LLC or an S-Corp, shared partnership, and they get a 20% deduction. If this bill does not get through, we won't be able to have that going forward. There will be a massive increase on small businesses across the country, and what we're doing here is making sure that that is consistent and permanent for the next generation of business owners and for the foreseeable future. That cannot go unstated, and it cannot get bogged down in all the conversation that's getting done about this bill, in the fact that we're going to give the economy and the American worker and the American family some real consistency. And thanks, and I yield now to Mr. Dan Newhouse from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I appreciate being here with my colleagues of the Republican Main Street Partnership to talk about this very important piece of legislation. You know, as a member of the House Agriculture Committee, I am very proud of our portion of this one big, beautiful bill. We've restored the integrity of the SNAP program by making states true partners in the program and returning it to what Congress originally intended SNAP to be, and that is truly supplemental. We were able to include critical pieces of the Farm Bill that will give farmers across the country relief and support that they desperately need. We expanded American trade opportunities by over doubling the funding for our market access programs, delivering a win for specialty crops and trade-reliant communities across the country, all while reducing overall spending. The bottom line of this legislation is that we invested in the future of our farmers. We strengthened SNAP so that it can help future recipients. And we played our part in keeping taxes low for the middle class and small businesses in our country. So thank you very much, and with that I'd like to introduce from the great state of Iowa, Representative Marionette Miller. Here, here.
Thank you all very much. I'm Congresswoman Marionette Miller Meeks, proudly representing Iowa's 1st congressional district. Before I begin, I want to thank our caucus chair, Dusty Johnson, and Vice Chair Mike Flood for their leadership in championing conservative, pro-growth, pro-America solutions. I'm here both as a former small business owner and a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. I'm proud to stand in support of President Trump's one big beautiful bill, a transformational package to lower taxes, secure the border, restore integrity and strengthen Medicaid, eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse from our government, and revive the American dream. And yes, we are doing our jobs. As a mother and a former small business owner, I know what happens if the Tax Cut and Jobs Act expires. The Ways and Means Committee held a field hearing in Iowa at the Iowa State Fair. The people who spoke at that meeting were small business owners and farmers. And what would happen if this bill is not reauthorized? Every small business in Iowa and across America would face a tax hike of at least 20%. I also know what will happen to families everywhere if it expires. Every family, every single mom would face a historic tax increase and lose out on the higher child tax credit. That's unacceptable. I refuse to let radical left progressives force tax increases on hardworking Iowa families and small businesses or take away or reduce the child tax credit. This big, beautiful bill protects America's small businesses, makes the Trump tax cuts permanent, expands the child tax credit, and ends federal taxes on tip and overtime. That's real relief for real hardworking Iowans and Americans, middle income and lower income. Amen. And as a physician, I spent decades working to strengthen and preserve Medicaid for those it was intended for: children, Americans with disabilities, seniors, struggling families, and our veterans. This bill does exactly that. Representative Crenshaw has already pointed out all the myths to you. No more taxpayer-funded Medicaid for illegal immigrants. No more handouts to adults without disabilities who refuse to go to work. No more people who are ineligible for Medicaid being on Medicaid and taking up a position that a child or a disabled adult or a senior could have. We're cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, and we are putting patients first. Under President Trump's leadership, the American dream is not just alive, it is being renewed. I yield to Mike Paradopoulos from Florida.
Well, my last name is long, but I will be brief. Let me just say something really simple. I have heard for the last few weeks over and over again that we're somehow giving a big tax cut to the rich. The current highest tax rate is 37%. When this bill passes, it will still be 37%. The people who are getting this tax cut are the people who are senior citizens who earned that benefit for working all these years. The people who are getting this benefit are those folks who work overtime and who work to earn those tips. This is a pro-growth, smart policy that truly rewards work. And I'm excited to be a part of this team, and I'm so proud of the president that actually backing up what he campaigned on. Isn't it a precedent? Now, isn't it great to have a president who backs up what he talked about on the campaign trail? That's why I ran for Congress, to keep promises during the campaign and to move this country forward. And so it's my pleasure to introduce a fellow freshman from the great state of Montana, Troy Downing.
Well, thank you all. I'm Troy Downing, 2nd District of the great state of Montana, and I couldn't be prouder than standing shoulder to shoulder with my Main Street colleagues here. You know, being a family man and a small business owner, you know, the #1 contributor to prosperity, economic prosperity, is access to capital. And the best capital access is your own, keeping more of your own. I'm going to say some numbers: 22, 26, 43, and 1,700. 22% is the tax hike the average American was looking at. 26% for an average Montanan, 43% for a Montana small business, and $1,700 in savings, in tax savings for a U.S. family of 4. But all of these things are being corrected with that one big, beautiful bill, making sure that we renew these tax cuts, make these things permanent. One big, beautiful bill. We'll just call it B cubed for short. So I'm really excited about this policy. I'm really excited about my colleagues here. I'm excited about the great work that we've done to get this tax relief, making sure we're extending the TCJA into the future so that we're not facing that, because the path to prosperity is access to capital, and the best capital to have access to is your own. So on that, I'm going to yield to my colleague, Congressman Tony Weed from the great state of Wisconsin.
Well, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am proud to stand here with my colleagues from Main Street to show support for our big, beautiful bill and dispel the many lies spread by the Democrats and echoed in the mainstream media. In November, the American people sent a clear message to Washington that they are fed up with reckless federal spending, unchecked illegal immigration, and inflation that is hurting the American families. They want to see President Trump's agenda carried forward, and that's exactly what we've been working toward through this reconciliation process. This bill is aimed at providing relief for hard-working Americans, securing our border, and getting our country back on a sound fiscal path. The Democrats have been shouting for months that we are only going to cut taxes for the wealthy. Let me be very clear. That could not be farther from the truth. If we do not pass this bill and extend President Trump's tax cuts, the average working person in my district would see a tax increase of about $1,600 next year. We will not allow that to happen. They have continuously said that we're going to gut Medicaid and other programs such as SNAP. That's false. We are committed to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse in these programs so they can be preserved and strengthened for the vulnerable Americans that they were always intended for. I want to thank my colleagues from Main Street for being here today to speak directly to the American people and share the truth about this big, beautiful bill. I look forward to getting it passed this week and continuing our work to make America great again. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Representative Rob Whitman.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you, Tony. Well, Tony, thank you. And thank you to the Main Street Partnership for leading the way and making sure we have that one big, beautiful bill that really is going to chart the course for the future of this nation. And folks, we're at a crossroads. Today, as we speak, the defense spending for the United States of America as a percentage of our economy is at the lowest point since before World War II. And that's in contrast to emerging threats like China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Folks, we know what we need to do. The House Armed Services Committee has now allocated $150 billion additional dollars to make sure we are addressing our efforts to rebuild our military, to make sure we're modernizing our military, to make sure we're strengthening our industrial base, to make sure we're supporting those brave men and women that serve in uniform. It's amazing what's happening with this. $9 billion additional dollars to go to support our men and women in uniform, whether it's their salaries, whether it's their base housing allowance, whether it's their base allowance for subsistence. Those basic elements of living and their quality of life are going to increase. We also see, too, there's $34 billion additional dollars to rebuild our Navy, to make sure we have the presence of a Navy Marine Corps around the world to deter our enemies. That's what this is about. $25 billion to accelerate our missile defense system, to make sure we have the ability to protect ourselves against what we see happening in other areas of the world, especially in the Middle East. We know that that could likely happen here. These dollars will go to make sure we have that missile defense system to protect our homeland. We're also going to be spending billions to ramp up munitions production. You know, we have used much of our munitions stockpiles, and we're at a precarious point right now. We're going to be spending more and investing more to rebuild our munitions stockpiles. Also, we're going to be putting $11 billion additional dollars into the Pacific Defense Initiative in the Indo-PACOM area there to make sure we have the ability to deter the fastest growing threat to the United States, the pacing threat, China. Those things are going to be incredibly important, folks. We have a long ways to go and a short time to get there. The challenges are many across the world for entities, countries, individuals that don't like the United States, that look to threaten us, and we know that we have to make the proper investments to make sure we deter. Folks, the most successful defense strategy in the history of our nation goes back to Ronald Reagan. We achieve peace through strength. We want to make sure that Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, the Ayatollahs in Iran wake up every morning and say, no, not today. We are not going to take on the United States because of what they represent and what they have in capability to deter these aggressors, these empires of evil that we see that continue to grow. And with that, I'd like to turn the microphone and the floor to my dear friend, Zach Nunn.
Thanks, Rob. All right. Well done, Well, hey, thanks everybody. My name is Congressman Zach Nunn. I'm a 6th generation farm kid from Iowa, and I'm proud to be sitting on the Ag Committee. I'm even more proud to be standing with this team to deliver on President Trump's top 3 priorities that he was elected on, that we were elected on for America. Defend our border, energy independence, and the continuation of the greatest tax cut in American history. Now friends, you're going to hear from liberal progressive millionaires about how this is a tax cut for billionaires. Well, this isn't just jealousy from them. This is a reality home in Iowa. There's Main Street folks who desperately need, depend, and have grown on this. I've invited folks from DC to come out to Iowa. And at the Iowa State Fair, we heard directly from Sarah Curry. And I asked Sarah, what would you do with your child tax cut? She said, I'm going to invest in speech therapy for my daughter. I'm going to buy a water heater because it went out last winter. I talked to Jolyn Reeson, who is a Iowa farm kid, and she said what she would do with the extension of the death tax credit is that she would help buy her family farm so they could keep it for another generation, not only in Iowa to help feed the world, but to keep it out of the hands of foreign investors who are preying at the door. Look, the average household across this country saw real money in their pocket, $5,000 that they invested in their community. And here's how I know this works. We cut taxes 3 times in Iowa, and every single time, the money in people's pockets didn't go off to DC. It was invested right there in Main Street, in their communities, in their schools, and it helped grow our economy to some of the best areas that we've ever seen. The proof is proven at the state level. This bill provides real wins for farmers, families, and community across the area. As a member of the Ag Committee, we made real investments, $60 billion, to strengthen the farm safety net, boost crop insurance, reference prices, and afford new markets, something that hasn't been done in the last 4 years at all. We included over $750 billion in projected growth for small businesses tax relief. That's a permanent 23% small business tax deduction and restoring 100% expensing. This is how you grow an economy, and this is how you take care of America's most vulnerable. Whether it's on Medicaid or SNAP, we've been able to make sure that those individuals who need it, get it. But tragically, those who have wasted it, states with error rates from 15% to 60% in some cases, are held accountable. And that we can have a real carrot and stick approach to make sure that we pay down our debt while still making sure those most vulnerable are protected. I'm thrilled that 40 million families will benefit from this tax credit and be able to receive a $5,000 tax credit for adoption. And this is personal to me. As a dad who adopted 2 girls, I saw firsthand families who couldn't even bring on their grandchildren because of this cost. But working with this team, we're delivering real results, not only for families with the child tax credit, but with the $5,000 adoption credit that will help a young child find their forever family. Team, we've got a long ways to go, but this is not only a great first start, it's a start that this team has helped lead to make sure that we get across the finish line this week. With it, I am so proud of the teams that have been able to work together, and I want to bring on a good friend from Utah, Celeste. You have been a big champion on this in your home state. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Hey, good job, Zach.
Hi, I'm Celeste Malloy from Utah's 2nd District, and I'm here to talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill. I was on the phone with a Utahn last week who asked me, why does it have to be so big? And the answer is the same reason it's so beautiful. This is how we're delivering the economy that we promised in November in the elections. I'm going to keep it really brief because my colleagues have covered a lot of the high points, but this bill would boost Utah's energy sector, restarting oil and gas and geothermal leases that not only make it so that we're using our natural resources and creating jobs in my state, but preparing this country to meet the energy needs of the future and be energy dominant, which we promised on the campaign trail. It increases rural investment. Agriculture savings and reinvestment programs help Utah's rural farming communities thrive, support local economies, and keep family farms in production and in families. That's important for America's future, and that's also part of the economy that we promised on the campaign trail. At the same time, we're providing these revenue enhancing measures we talk a lot about the savings. We need to talk more about the revenue enhancements. We're increasing funding for border security and for our military readiness, which are things that Americans also asked us for. We're delivering the economy that America voted for in November, and that's what's so big and so beautiful about the reconciliation. And with that, I would like to introduce my colleague, Mr. Baird.
Hey, hey.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Congressman Jim Baird from Indiana's 4th District. And I want to thank Congressman Dusty Johnson and Representative Mike Flood and the Main Street for having this caucus and putting us together here today. You know, I'm here in complete support for Speaker Johnson and the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill to codify President Trump's successful agenda. This bill is a massive win that provides historic investment and tax relief for rural America. House Agricultural Committee Republicans did our job last year to pass a farm bill while Democrats fearmongered and played political politics and games. Through this process in the House Agriculture Committee, I voted to deliver much needed economic certainty to our farmers and producers, including investing in crop insurance and enhancing biosecurity measures to combat diseases such as the avian flu. When we pass this bill, we will be one step closer to delivering what we promised: lower prices at the gas pump and the grocery store, fair trade, and the start of the golden age of America. I now want to turn this over to my good friend, Representative Derek Johnson.
Thank you. I am incredibly happy to stand here with my Main Street colleagues supporting President Donald J. Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. What this bill does is it gives what's been missing over the last 4 years of the tragic Biden-Schumer governance. It gives certainty. It gives certainty to the hardest working Americans that we depend on every single day. Those are our farmers. It does that by increasing reference prices, base acres, locking in crop insurance so that the crops that my farmers in Wisconsin have in the ground right now, if there is a disaster, that they will be able to continue farming because crop insurance is available. The second group of people that it provides certainty to is those who are most vulnerable amongst us. I was raised in abject rural poverty by a single mother on food stamps when we still had a stamp that you put on a card. And everything you're hearing that the Democrats are saying that we're cutting these programs is simply a lie. There's no other way to put this. So what we are doing is making sure, for instance, that able-bodied working adults without dependents have to work for 20 hours, volunteer for 20 hours, go to school for 20 hours, get job training for 20 hours. That is an 85% issue in the state of Wisconsin, and we're a 50-50 state. That means that you can't get more bipartisan than this. So what we're going to do is make sure that these programs are available in perpetuity, because as the Democrats are fear-mongering, the Republican Party is making sure that we're taking care of our farmers and those most vulnerable amongst us, and that is everything in this big, beautiful bill. And with that, I yield to my very good friend, Mr. Chuck Edwards from the great state of North Carolina.
Hey. Good job, Derek.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chuck Edwards. I'm proud to represent North Carolina's 11th District here in Congress. I'm also very proud to be a part of the Main Street Caucus, and I applaud the work that this group does to represent Main Street America, mainstream Americans. I'm here to represent the Budget Committee on which I sit that built the framework for the One Big Beautiful Bill. And I'm really excited that the final product that came back to the Budget Committee met the framework that we had put forward. What I want to do with you this afternoon is to set the record straight. The claim that the House's reconciliation package will kick 13.7 million Americans off health coverage is just false. The reality is, when you spend more money per eligible participant, you're not cutting anything. This number comes, that you've heard, from a CBO estimate that first includes over 1.4 million illegal immigrants, and second,
It includes millions of American citizens who wouldn't actually lose insurance. They'd just move over to other options like employer plans, ACA exchanges, or children's health insurance programs. What this bill really does is end a temporary pandemic-era policy that added 23 million people to Medicaid without even eligibility checks. It restores the normal process, verifying who qualifies, just like we did before COVID. That's not a cut, it's fiscal responsibility. It also introduces work requirements to help those who can but refuse to work move towards self-sufficiency. And it includes additional reforms that strengthen Medicaid for those who truly need it. If we want Medicaid to be strong for seniors, single mothers and children, and the most vulnerable, then we have to have guardrails. This isn't about taking away care. It's about protecting and improving it. And with that, I would like to introduce my very good friend from Florida, Ms. Laurel Lee.
Good job, Chuck. Great.
We are the Republican Main Street Caucus. We come from districts all across the country. We serve on different committees throughout Congress. But we are united in our desire to ensure that the American people get the truth and the facts. We are also united in our desire to support President Trump and his agenda to make it a reality and to pass the one big beautiful bill. With that, we thank you all so much for being here, and individual members will be available for questions at the conclusion. Thank you so much.
Good job. Best job. All right. Yeah. The one that's loose.